Hey! Happy Friday, everyone. Just got a weird StreamYard lost access to your Facebook account message. So this is the face that welcomed everyone to the podcast. or vodcast, as my husband calls it, because it's a video podcast. One of these days we have to do a vodka podcast, like spice it up a little, make sure every one of our guests has a glass of vodka at like 9-10 a.m. in the morning, and see what they really think about the cloud news.
This could be vodka.
Yeah. So we have two guests, one who works with us at HeleCloud, and Colin.
Hi.
Colin, if you want to say a few words about yourself.
Oh, yeah, hi, I'm Colin. Colin Charles. Been around the open source world for a fairly long time. Do a lot of MySQL since pre-sale to Sun. Before that, I used to hack on Linux. So Fedora project was on the first Fesco. Also worked on OpenOffice.org. So I do a whole bunch of stuff. Co-founded MariaDB server. Quite enjoy doing infrastructure backend stuff.
Cool. Welcome. And we have Farid. We have Farid here. You want to tell a bit about yourself, Farid?
Yeah. So my name is Farid. My background is software development. Sort of like almost 10 years ago, soon, I guess. And a few years ago, I decided to jump ship, join Walter's company, and start doing infrastructure. And suddenly, I'm an AWS Solutions Architect. I don't know how I got here.
Yes. So Farid is, in my opinion, it's one of the best profiles for people to turn into infrastructure architect, because this whole infrastructure as code thing is secretly more development than it is infrastructure. The infrastructure part is easy to grasp, but the development part is not so easy to grasp. So I've learned the hard way that finding people from a development background is better for the infrastructure, for the code part of the infrastructure as code.
Yeah, especially nowadays with the CDK and the serverless and how it's all coming together. It's really familiar to me.
Yep. No, it's definitely changing as we go, and I think that it's harder for traditional ops people to turn into cloud people than it is for traditional development people to turn into cloud people. That's for sure. We have a bunch of different topics, actually a lot of topics. Lena, do you want to take us away? Or I can take us away, also fine.
Yes, sorry. I was trying to troubleshoot the StreamYard issue while we were talking.
Okay. So our first news of the week is Dell deciding to spin out VMware. Obviously, not that long ago, at least, unless I'm getting old. It doesn't seem that long ago. EMC moved VMware over to Dell, and now it's going standalone again. So it seems a bit of juggling of billion-dollar companies to me. But interested to hear your thoughts, Colin.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a musical chairs, and I think Dell might be trying to deleverage from what VMware is doing. It might be better for them to be independent companies. It's probably interesting to see what might die from all of this spin out. It's a win for Dell shareholders. Maybe not so much of a win yet for VMware, but again, we know, you and I know people that work at VMware, even on interesting database as a service solutions and stuff. So it'd be very interesting to see what happens to this. And also, let's not focus so much on the database, but on virtualization as well. Like how many people are focusing on VMware in the cloud versus using KVM in the cloud, for example, which is what powers a huge chunk of the internet. So maybe it's a bit of a paradigm shift for them as well.
Yeah, it's. I think that's probably something we'll see a couple of years down the line, both for Dell as well as for VMware. I think for Dell it allows them to focus a bit more, but I don't know. In my mind, both names are connected to more or less legacy technologies, and quite curious to see what happens a few years down the line.
Let's do OpenSearch, please.
Let's do OpenSearch. Yeah. Okay. Next up is OpenSearch. So AWS announced OpenSearch this week, which is a follow-up from their earlier commitment that they will run their own Elasticsearch fork, I guess it is now, simply because Elasticsearch decided to to adjust their licensing to be open source, but not really open source by excluding certain people. And the whole point of open source is to not exclude certain people. So
AWS was abusing their open source ideals, and AWS is like, you thought we were abusing then? Look at us now.
I think it's actually really interesting because it was open source to begin with, right? And then, Elastic said, look, we've taken all this funding, let's try to make more money. And we don't like the fact that this cloud provider is making more money than we are. That's not actually the cloud provider's fault, that's your fault. Then you can't figure out how to make money. And then we're like, oh, let's play licensing games. And then eventually you get a fork, right? And this is a lesson for many providers as well as VCs, actually. Because you're going to fund open source, you better figure out a way to work with the open source world and not against it.
But I think it's a good thing because firstly, the AWS new license is a more permissive license. So it would offer greater reuse for the community. And then also it could be that, for example, Elastic could look at them and see, oh, they're changing this, so we just take that patch. You never know.
You remember that story of what was it, Node.js, and what was the fork called? IO.js, something like that, which I don't think will happen here because the commercial interests are too large. But
these two are actually like I think as OpenSearch goes along, it would just be continue to get more integrated into AWS ecosystem, which is not the direction that Elastic is taking. They want to continue to be agnostic, and I don't think similar to IO.js and Node.js are never going to merge together because somehow IO.js got a lot better.
Yeah, it's interesting. So they say so in the announcement from AWS, they also say that they have the support from Red Hat, SAP, and Logs.io, which, if they can make that happen, then they can potentially run an actual open source ship. And the advantage, I think, is that AWS doesn't need to make money off of the OpenSearch software. So if they can fund some of the development and do it in the open, they already have the revenue streams to make it profitable. Hugely profitable, I'd say. So the potential is there to make this quite successful. I think Colin froze, or is that just me?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but you're not moving. You've been paralyzed.
Oh.
But
oh no!
Share your thoughts, so it's good. It's fine.
Okay. Yeah, I hope I got paralyzed in a good way, though. Yeah, I think the other thing that might be interesting to remember is, we might have seen this before with OpenJDK as well. So back in the day, Java was a big deal as well. I mean, Java's still a big deal, and OpenJDK was also an amalgamation of people getting together. And I guess that's kind of what you're starting to see here with this Elastic thing as well.
So is Elastic going to sue Amazon over this?
I wouldn't be surprised if their lawyers are already talking. Elastic is a public company. They have a fiduciary duty to their shareholders to figure out how to gain pricings to go up. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to do something. But I guess it's a really good segue into what else we're going to talk about, because even if they were thinking about it, now's not a good time to do it.
Yeah, I think so, and I think that Elastic is in a tougher spot, because if you look at, for instance, MongoDB did the same thing. They adjusted their license, and actually I did some research recently, and if you look at the financial performance of MongoDB after they adjusted their license, it went from this to this. I don't necessarily know that that's going to happen with Elastic as well, but I guess that will be something we can talk about in a year or 2 years from now. The next topic that I have on the list is Microsoft spending an absolute ungodly amount of money for a firm that does AI and speech technology. So they are spending $16 billion on this, which this firm Nuance is actually in healthcare. So it leads me to believe that there's more there than what necessarily is being put into press releases. And maybe that is to get a better handle on this Cortana stuff that they have, because it's not exactly a leading player at the moment.
Yeah.
I was listening to this podcast called Cloudcast, which is similar to what we do. They talk mostly about the acquisition financials of the companies in the cloud. And they actually said something that was like got me thinking. So they said Microsoft acquired GitHub to try to get a better relationship with all developers, kind of own all of our code. And then Microsoft acquired LinkedIn to own all of our resumes and all of our work relationships. Well, now Microsoft is going after our speech?
Potentially.
Yeah. My reaction was the same, like, are they allowed to buy so many companies? What the hell?
Eventually, they'll just pull an alphabet and get it over with. I don't know. Sorry, Colin, you wanted to say something?
I think it makes a lot of sense. No, I reckon it really does make sense. I mean, they are allowed to buy it because it's not competitive. But, I think if you look very carefully, this sort of thing could make a lot of sense. Audio recognition is something that, Apple works on, Google works on. It's only natural that Microsoft starts focusing on it as well. And, stuff with the medical world is really hard for you to grok without, there's a lot of paperwork and stuff. So, this sort of thing probably makes a lot of sense. It's a very good future bet. Telemedicine is going to be a big thing as well, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, God knows that Microsoft has the money to spend on this, so I guess they don't really have to worry about doing this, and it's not even bigger than the LinkedIn deal, if I remember correctly. That was like 20+ billion. So
yeah,
that's interesting. We'll see how this evolves down the line, and I guess this is the same with most of our topics when it comes to acquisitions. And if I look at on a much smaller scale, when HeleCloud acquired Olin Data, this is also a very similar story. You make a deal based on what you believe is possible in the future, but you don't actually know until you get 1 or 2 years into the future what that actually is gonna look like. And one of the things that someone said to me while we were in this acquisition phase was that the acquisitions that go well, you never hear from them again. The ones that don't go well are the ones that end up in the news and that people are talking about. Hey, did you hear that they acquired this company and then murdered it? And this is something that was a good point, and it's very true. The acquisitions that went well, you don't hear from it. Microsoft acquiring GitHub is something that because it's out in the very real openness, it gets talked about. But I think by now it's clear that they actually did a good job in keeping GitHub, and yeah, for me that's quite interesting.
Yeah. Interestingly, so companies acquired to kill. That sounds like Google. But moving on from that, yeah, Microsoft did a good job with the acquisition of GitHub. They kind of since then GitHub has also been like moving forward, and it was not dead in the water. It was not that the what is it that they have in the cloud with the Visual Studio Services used to be Azure DevOps. Azure DevOps did not become the replacement of GitHub. If anything, GitHub became the replacement of Azure DevOps, which is great because Azure DevOps is horrible. Well, for repositories.
Yeah, and I think that segueing into that, I think GitHub did a good. No, actually, Microsoft did a good job in having GitHub on one side and then having Visual Studio Code on the other side. Where I remember the days of the actual Visual Studio, where you had to pay an ungodly amount of money for an IDE that was cool but not universally useful. It was really back then .NET, C# that you could do with it, and a few other things, but it's quite limited. I think that Visual Studio Code is basically atom done better. And for me, it's quite interesting to own the developer's journey from the very beginning. I think Microsoft has a very strong play there. Yeah,
they own the operating system, they own the editor, they own where you push your code, and they own where you deploy the code. And actually, they've been really working hard to streamline how you code your projects and then get them deployed in one go.
Yes, yeah. And
it's a testament to the vision of what Satya Nadella really has, right?
Yeah.
These acquisitions, the stock price, it's all been going up thanks to his vision.
Yeah, I mean, we could have sat here, 5 years ago, maybe a little bit more, and think, oh, Microsoft, old school, near death, and then I think really what Nadella did was recognize a few realities that before him were not recognized, and if you're playing in this industry and you try to ignore the realities that are out there, then that's going to lead to trouble, and you better get on the bandwagon. And I think that since Microsoft did that, and since they realized that open source is actually a super powerful paradigm, and developers are what you want to chase for a good experience, because the next time somebody says we're going to build a project and ask the developers which tools should we use, they're going to use the stuff that's easy to use for them. And what is a small choice in the beginning is actually a huge lock-in, vendor lock-in in terms of language. So if you choose Python now and you're going to build a whole company on it, most likely you're going to be stuck with Python as a language for the next decade. So it's a big lock-in.
Yeah, otherwise 5 years later you have to rewrite all of the code into yet another language. What, Go?
I used to work for a company back in 2004 where we were doing Delphi development, and they have been working since then to move off of Delphi and move towards more web-based languages, and they are already for years 90% on that, but the Delphi stuff still won't disappear completely from their system. So the long tail of a programming language is huge. Okay, that's sorry.
Speaking of programming languages, let's continue with something that isn't.
Yes.
Strictly speaking, a programming language. Terraform has a new version. Which is interesting. I read the release notes. It's not like boom, major upgrades to what Terraform already was. I like that you have new functions to obfuscate sensitive data from the outputs of Terraform plan and apply. So that's good. And the rest is just to do with managing of state files.
Yes. And the main reason why I put it on the list is actually the fact that they said this is 1.0 pre-release, which is almost mind-blowing after what are we down, a decade by now to get to a 1.0. So quite happy to read that, but also wondering how on earth it could take so long.
How many years has it been that people using it in production?
Yeah, seriously.
But yeah, every
2012, I think it was, which was like 9 years ago. So let's say 8 years in production.
Yeah.
But every release, they've been actually like adding stuff that is what you need to get it into production to relieve the pain points that they had in previous releases. So I feel it was kind of justified that they've been saying that, hey, this is not our final product yet. Wait, it will come. But it took really long time. And stuff like this, for example, these sensitive variables, yeah, this was needed years ago. Because, for example, if you want to publish your plan on GitHub pull request to show the developers, hey, this was your thing. No, you can't do that because there's sensitive stuff in there.
No, yeah, I agree. But I also think that if I look back to other products, there is it's an 80-20 rule in my opinion. So a project that is 80% ready, or sorry, yeah, a project that's 20% ready often has already huge usability. So I look back at, for instance, the days of Puppet. You had Puppet 0.25, which was actually quite usable. After that, they fixed a whole bunch of problems that increasingly went into academic problems that you needed to fix. It wasn't actually needed to run a production infrastructure, but sure, you could definitely argue that certain specific ways in which it worked weren't great, and so they improved those things. But is that really necessary to do 80% of your work? I don't think so, and I think that Terraform is running that same risk.
Yeah, there is that also.
What do we still need to make this super useful? It's been running production for years, and okay, fine, it's not super polished, but I don't know.
I have a few ideas. Some of the things that are in Terraform Enterprise, like the policy as code, if that goes into the open source version, that's going to be a huge benefit to everyone using it. And also the ability to do automated tests of the infrastructure that you've built with Terraform. I know there are other products that do that, but it's just that Terraform plan is suboptimal in telling you how it's going to work out when you do Terraform apply. So even I'm not sure that Terraform plan can be made a whole lot better due to the way clouds work, but some form of test in the end, functional test.
They're actually, I think with this release, they released some experiment for testing, that you write a test in Terraform language to test your module and test for equality of, I don't know, some values after it's done. I haven't looked into it yet, but I think they're working on it, which is great.
Nice.
We just got a comment from someone on the YouTube side of things that says state compatibility between versions, and I think it's really great. It's a small thing, but basically Terraform keeps a state file. And previously, if you made a Terraform apply in one version, and then you would try to do it with the next version of Terraform, it just barf out and say, "Oh, sorry, this is done with 2 different versions." So now you first have to fix all of that stuff. Just having that simple compatibility is a small thing, huge headache solved that annoyed a lot of people. And I think the fact that people are commenting on this specific thing is already an indication of how much small features are very much appreciated. But then if you look at...
that you talked about, that it works without them, but it makes the life of everyone using the product a whole lot easier if you fix them.
Yeah. And
no, the upgrade process was not smooth.
No. And I think that's an understatement. But yeah, if you look at the stuff that they outline in their blog post, a lot of it is actually small fry, like unified console support. Cool. I'm not really excited about such a thing. So the sensitivity of variables and the how to say that, the state file format compatibility. Jesus, big term. Are bigger things, but I'm curious to see when they will put it to 1.0, because I think 0.14 was already a year ago. So at this speed, it'll be 2022 before we see a 1.0 version, I guess. Our last article.
Like
Sorry.
2 years ago, I talked to someone from HashiCorp, because we're partners, and I've come to work with a lot of them in the last 3 years. And 2 years ago, they didn't know when version 1 will be released. So today, actually announcing that this is the next thing that we're going to see is a big change from a statement 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's true. And I think good, because people were wondering, is this ever going to reach 1.0? You could argue that we've been on 1.0 for a very long time, and that's semantic versioning. That's a whole separate discussion. But our last topic for the day is a topic that came from Colin, actually. Last night, U.S. imposed sanctions on Russia. The main headline is the election stuff, but a big thing also was the hack on SolarWinds. Colin, do you want to say a few things about it? Are you still there?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I guess this is the interesting week, right, where the U.S. both does sanctions against China, and that puts against Russia, that also puts Chinese supercomputing entities on an economic blacklist, basically. So they're having a great week in terms of sanctioning people. SolarWinds hack happened quite some time ago. They inserted some code. SolarWinds is closed source software. You use closed source software in your own peril. Not that everyone actually looks at all their open source code anyway, to be fair. So, but at least many eyes make shallow bugs. But it's interesting to see America sanctioning a bunch of people over effectively computing related reasons as well, because it's affecting lots of folk. And I guess the SolarWinds stuff you've discussed multiple times on the stream. But the sanctions that are coming after are also extremely interesting to see where things go. And actually, I don't really feel like this is a Russian problem per se. I feel this is a more SolarWinds problem. But someone's going to take the blame, really. And in this case, it looks like Russia took it, amongst other things that they did.
I forgot what was the story. It was, I think, an intern using the password SolarWinds 123 and then shared on the internet. somehow.
Well, that wasn't actually the story. That was the excuse. So I think the story is much deeper. But the excuse was indeed, oh, we had an intern do this years ago. Sure, whatever.
The intern that got the whole country sanctioned.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's a very good line in a resume.
Or something.
That is a good line in the resume. You'll definitely attract some attention with that. What did you achieve in your career? Oh, I got a country sanctioned. Cool.
I would just put the intern at Solarwinds and see what happens, and then I'll try and be like, I may know the guy or girl that did this. So it seems our time is up. And I'd like to thank Colin and Farid for joining us this fine Friday morning. As it's tradition, we'll leave you guys a couple of minutes to promote yourselves or ideas that are dear to you as a conclusion to our podcast. Colin, you want to go first?
Use open source software.
How did I know you were going to say that? But he's right.
You can use it in the cloud, yeah. Prevent sanctions against nations via open source software usage.
Yeah, that's true.
Thank you for inviting me. I had a lot of fun.
Good. You're almost smiling on the frozen image we have of you.
So yeah, we'll have to work the StreamYard stuff next time.
So, Farid?
Oh, thank you for inviting me. I follow Colin. Please use open source software as much as you can. Well, when it's not financially trouble for you. There is that also.
Yeah, well, I agree. I'm a big open source fan. I've become a little bit pragmatic in the last couple of years, because I also see lots of challenges with open source software, but then there are also lots of challenges with closed source software. So it's a debate that will fuel the rest of all of our careers, I'm pretty sure. So I'm happy to keep discussing that.
It's better the devil you know than the one you don't, actually. At least it gives you the optionality to take this.
Yes.
Yeah.
The
devil that you can debug.
Yeah. But then stuff like this RMS story, sorry that I have to mention it, the stuff like this RMS story is really detrimental to open source and its, how to say that, its image across industries, especially people who are skeptical of open source. It hurts my heart to see that we're bullshitting so much. I didn't say that on the live stream, that we're that we're infighting over such a thing, and it distracts so much from the bigger picture.
Yeah, I sincerely hope we're bigger than all of these little squabbles. You know, politics is never going to disappear, and I sincerely hope that we'll just move past it quickly. We may not, but hopefully it's like a tinder of a flame. You know, sort of just goes away.
Yeah,
I'm being very idealistic here. I'm sure it won't go away, but you know, we can all hope and pray.
Okay, thanks everyone. Let's close it. We'll be back next week, and thank you very much for watching and attending.
Bye everyone. Happy Friday.
Bye.